Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all know my slogan. I don't know it all, but I know what I've been through. Now, okay, y'all. I'm gonna be fair as I speak on the behalf of both Manny and Momma Duck's videos because I watched both. Now, I've watched the Manny interview with Truth Teller TV, and shouts out to Truth Teller. It was definitely, he on his grind. And I watched Momma Duck's response video where she went live for about 1 whole hour. And let me tell y'all, I actually watched the whole hour, and I'll explain why. As crazy as Momma Duck could be sometimes, one thing I gotta admit is she usually has receipts for the things she says, and whether she does or she don't, usually some of her points actually make sense when she breaks them down. And once again, I'm gonna say sometimes, not all the times. I don't agree all the time. However, you do gotta admit when somebody has a point. Now, I did videos covering both, so the one we're gonna start with is Manny, who is also the father of FBG Young and FBG Duck's old manager. Now, this is the guy we tend to hear a lot about, but never seen him until now. There's a few things that stuck out to me during this interview, and he made some great points as well. However, there are some suspect things that stood out to me as well, and we're going to get into all that, man, in a minute. But before we do, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And I swear it's lit here. So join one of the latest games on YouTube so you can stay updated with some of the realest content. Now let's get straight into it. Now, Manny Truth Teller video. Alright, now off the rip, once I seen FBG Cash sitting on that couch, I automatically said, why is he there? Right? And just off of how it looks, whether he meant it or not, with him being there automatically told me that he's supporting Manny and everything Manny is actually saying. And if you don't support him, then once again, why are you there? I know I'm not the only one to feel like this, and also it was suspect because although Manny and Momma Duck aren't like ops, but they clearly got some tension going on. So if you sitting up there with Manny nodding your head to some of the things he's saying as if you're agreeing in one breath, then in the next breath you keying with Momma Duck as if there's no issue and whatnot, that forces me and others to believe you playing both sides. Alright, and I never seen Cash in any interview with Momma Duck nodding his head in agreement. So, I don't know. It's like I never seen Cash or Momma Duck in any interview. So if you cool with both sides, why even put yourself in that position to be caught in the middle or looking like you supporting one and not the other by being in Manny's video? All right. In fact, he could have even been in attendance and just not on camera because we all know they cool and look up to Manny as like a father figure. However, you made things a little edgy by being on camera when you didn't even have to be. All right. But enough of Cash. Let's move on. Now, I was wondering to myself after all this time, what made Manny come out and actually say something now? Now, it's been almost 2 years. Duck passed on August of 2020, and since his death, we've been hearing about shadiness involving Duck's management. Now, the only thing I can conclude from this interview with Manny is that Momma Duck saying in her Say Cheese interview that his management and label didn't pay nothing for his funeral, that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back and he had to speak his piece. Now, in speaking his piece, he also discussed the allegations of money being stolen from FBG Duck, his funeral contract, and he actually admitted that he took back the $8,000 that he put up for Duck's funeral due to Momma Duck forcing him to be petty due to her behavior online. Now, just so we don't get confused, I want to discuss things in topics, and then first we're gonna start off with the monies for Duck's funeral. I want to discuss things in topics because it's a lot of things that was said in this interview and I don't want to skip nothing. So to make sure that we understand certain things, we just gonna talk about things in topics. Now let's talk about the money for Duck's funeral. Now, Manny describes that him and the label came up with $21,000 for Duck's funeral. And sidebar, he didn't explain how they came up with that exact number. However, he says that 21,000 was the initial number at the time. Also, I would like to know, out of curiosity, when he says that him and the label came up with $21K. Out of that $21K, how much did he actually contribute? You see what I'm saying? Was it a 50-50 thing, or did the label really put up the money, but you just saying that y'all put it up? Or which one is it? Because I find it kind of funny that a label would need help with coming up with just $21K for a funeral, and give or take it, if he's saying they both put up the money, let's assume it was half and half, and they roughly put up about 10 grand. But now, once again, it all falls back on how that 21 number even came about. All right. But anyway, Manny explains how they spoke, him and Mama Duck spoke. He told her he was going to pay for Duck's funeral, and the label and himself came up with $21K from the jump. All right, the $21K was for the funeral. He says he offered to pay, but Mama Duck wanted the check instead, and he says that the label wouldn't give a flat-out check unless there was an invoice that came from the funeral home themselves. He says that after hearing that, Mama Duck told him to keep the money, and that was that. Now, here's where things get a little weird to me, and we're going to play devil's advocate, right? Maybe Mama Duck wanted to check flat out because she didn't trust Manny's story. She didn't trust Manny. You know, they got a history. She's already saying that Manny owes money, or Manny didn't give her any money. So why would she just flat out believe that Manny is going to give her this $21,000 or whatever money that he was going to give her without taking money? Maybe she felt it was more to it. Maybe the label was offering more, but he just said that this was the number. Alright, maybe she feels that Manny was shorting her or holding back and trying to keep some of the money for himself. Right? That's one scenario. Or maybe she wanted to check so she could spend a little on a funeral and pocket the rest for herself. It could be either or. I'm just trying to think from both sides of the party and keep it fair. Alright? But here's my question for Manny. Notice how the money went from $21,000 that we still don't even know how that number came up, right? But notice how it went from 21K to 8K. And pay attention, in the beginning of the interview, he says that the funeral was already paid for. All right, he said everything was paid for. So if everything was already paid for, why did you need to ask Mama Duck about any money? Alright, she didn't need to know about any money if all the money was already put up for the funeral and everything was already paid for. Correct? Now, if I'm wrong, y'all let me know in the comments. But like I said, this is what I'm trying to get from it. I don't know. Some things just aren't adding up to me. And first of all, right, how do you pay for somebody's child's funeral without consulting with the parent first at all? You don't tell them what funeral parlor, you don't tell them where it's at or what's going on. You don't ask them how they want the funeral to be held or what they want in the funeral, nothing. You just tell them, yo, the funeral paid for. You just pay for the funeral. Keep in mind, he said out his own mouth, I repeat, everything was already paid for. Alright, once again, I can be wrong, but if you ask me, something don't sound right on his behalf. I'm sorry. All I'm doing is judging off of what he said in that interview. And he said everything was already paid for. She didn't have to worry. Alright, now let's move on, right? Now, Manny explains that after she declined the money, a few days later, she called back asking if he still was going to give him the $8,000. Now, pay attention. Once again, I've noticed the number went from him and the label having 21K put up to now when he says she called back, she specifically asked for $8,000. Pay attention. Now, at this time, he says, here's where the pettiness kicked in and made him not give her the money, because after asking for the 8K, she told him it'll be a private funeral so he could attend, but his kids wasn't allowed to attend the funeral. Alright, and that's what rubbed him the wrong way and made him decide not to give her the 8K on top of her pretty much declining the money the first time. But let me be more specific, because once again, like I said, I noticed something. He says, quote, so you asked me for my $8,000. Pay attention to these words. She asked me for my $8,000, and say you can come, but they can't come. So now it became his money and his 8K. Right? But what happened to the rest? How did $21,000 that you and the label came up with become $8,000? What happened to the other 13,000? Alright, was the 8,000 his half that he was putting up with the label, and the 13 was their half, and being that they didn't get the invoice, they just took their 13 and he kept his 8? I don't know. These are questions that I want answers to. Keep in mind, these are just questions. I'm not insinuating anything. This is just the question that I took from the interview, right? And I'm not going to make it seem like he's 100% wrong, because as humans, understand this, and I expressed this in the video prior, as humans, we do sometimes let our emotions get the best of us. So I could respect him as a man for admitting that he let her put him in a petty space. She got him in his feelings. It happens to all of us sometimes, man. We act out of emotion. You can't bash someone or say something about someone publicly and antagonize them and then ask for help and expect them to just forget everything and help you. It don't work like that. And I'll be the first one to tell you, because I could be petty as hell at times too, because I have the mentality that I always feel that no matter what somebody does to me, they're going to need me before I need them. So you can't ever play with me like that. So I can understand how he feels from that aspect. However, I do think some parts are being left out, but I can't say 100% because I wasn't there. I can only judge off what I see or hear in this interview. Alright, now let's move on. Now, Manny also mentioned that Mama Duck allowed a snake to infiltrate the circle and disrupt what him and Duck had in place before Duck died. He didn't say any names specifically, and he didn't say what the snake did per se, but he pointed out that someone, or in reference to a snake, came in between what him, Duck, and Mama Duck had in place. And I'll assume that when he says a snake was brought in, if y'all remember, prior to Duck's death, he wanted out of his situation. He wanted to see his contract, and that's where everything kind of like disconnected, as we were told. And Manny failed to provide Duck's contract and show him. Also, Duck started his own YouTube and re-uploaded a lot of his music on there, basically leaving us to believe that, you know, maybe he wasn't seeing his YouTube revenue how he expected, and he decided to take matters into his own hands. So it's clear that Duck felt there was some type of management issues and may have wanted out of his contract, and that's where Manny feels it was a snake somewhere part of the equation, maybe feeding Duck misinformation, causing Duck to turn on him. So maybe that's what he's referring to when he said it was a snake trying to disrupt. But once again, he never named anyone, and he never said what they did per se. So, you know, we can only pretty much make our own accusations or assumptions. Now, let's talk about Duck's contract and money. Now, Manny said Duck signed for $325,000 and was given an advance of about $150,000, which should have left him $175,000 on the back end as soon as he fulfilled his contract. That's usually how music contracts go. You get an advance, they front you, you do whatever with that money, but you still got to recoup. Alright, it's kind of like you're in debt for a little while until you make back the money that they advanced you, that they gave you. Alright, now Manny says he was given $50K despite saying that he didn't need it, which would leave Duck with about $100K, right? And the lawyer was given about 5% out of that as well. So I'm gonna go with an estimate that left Duck with about $95,000. You know, I don't know if my math is, you know, on point, but I think it is. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But anyway, I always say the music business is exactly that. It's a business. Honestly, it's more business than music, which is why a lot of younger artists get railroaded into signing these weird contracts. That's how a lot of these old artists sign 360 deals, which is like slave contracts, but they didn't know any better at the time, so they lost out on their money. They didn't read that fine print, man. Alright, and when the kid from the hood hear that he got $100,000 and you hear numbers like that, they think that they made it. They think that they rich, but they don't know that it's a business. You see what I'm saying? There's a business side, and that's where they run the risk of becoming broke within a few years of signing that same contract. This is also why you have some independent artists that understand the business, making more money than some of your artists on major labels. You have to understand the business. Music is like 95% business and 5% music. Probably not that exaggerated, but you understand what I'm trying to say. But as far as money being stolen, Manny explained that Duck already received his advance and the label was just collecting their back in half, and that was pretty much it. And whether that's true or not, in their case, in most instances, the label does collect their money and recoup off of artists through album sales, streams, and etc. etc. However, show money is supposed to go to the artist. Alright, but once again, it's all about that contract, because if that contract says otherwise and you signed it, then that's just on you. A contract can say anything it wants to. It's up to you to catch it, or your attorney, and negotiate what you want and don't want, and you guys take it from there. But if your contract says that half of your show money go to your manager, or half of your show money goes to the label, or you only get this amount of money and that amount, and you sign it, that's on you. You can't dispute that. You are in a legal contract to fulfill that contract. Alright, but once again, a lot of these young artists aren't aware of this information and get caught up in bad contracts. So I don't know if that's the case here, but that's what it seemed like. Just a case of maybe Duck being railroaded into signing a contract without the proper understanding of it. If he did sign that contract, it's nothing they can really do legally, because it just is what it is. He signed the contract, man. But that's pretty much it with the Truth Teller TV, man, interview. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about it. Do y'all feel that Manny is being genuine in what he says? Do y'all feel that he's lying? Do you feel that maybe FBG Duck was just put in a bad situation? Maybe he was railroaded? I don't know. Y'all let me know how y'all feel in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'm going to keep on dropping. And I'm out.